Have you ever been judged by the clothes you wear? A pristine luxury car stands in stark contrast to the dusty road and a boy in torn, faded clothes. The millionaire screams, his face red with anger, believing his wealth gives him the right to look down on everyone. But appearances can be deceiving. Today's story is about a boy who had nothing in his pockets but a wealth of wisdom in his heart. This story will teach you that being rich is not just about money. Before we start, comment below, what does rich mean to you? Mr. Anderson was the most powerful man in the city. His name was carved into the skyline, and his influence reached every corner of the business world. But behind his vast fortune lived a man who was cold-hearted and deeply egoistic. He believed that money was the only thing that mattered, and anyone without it was beneath his notice. On the edge of a quiet, remote road sat Sam. He was a simple boy who spent his days working at a small roadside tea stall. Sam was poor, but he was incredibly resilient, surviving on the little he earned with a quiet strength. While Mr. Anderson looked at balance sheets, Sam looked at the world. He was humble and observant, possessing a depth of wisdom that was far beyond his years. The silence of the countryside was suddenly shattered by the mechanical groan of a luxury car. The engine sputtered, smoke began to rise, and the vehicle came to a dead halt right in front of Sam's stall. The most powerful man in the city was now stranded in the middle of nowhere, standing on the dusty ground of a boy he would never have even noticed otherwise. Mr. Anderson slammed the car door in frustration. He paced back and forth, holding his phone high, searching for a signal that didn't exist. He was a man used to instant solutions, but here, in the middle of nowhere, his power felt like it was slipping away. Sam walked over from his small tea stall, carrying a glass of water and a rusted wrench. "Excuse me, sir," Sam said calmly. "Your engine is overheating in this sun. Would you like some water? I have a few tools if you'd like to try and fix it." Mr. Anderson turned, his face twisting into a sneer of pure contempt. He looked at Sam's dusty clothes and then at his own pristine suit. "Help?" he mocked. "A beggar like you thinks he can help a man like me? Look at this car. This is a masterpiece of engineering. A single tire on this vehicle costs more than your entire life's earnings. Your whole world is worth less than the spare parts in my trunk. Don't touch my property with your filthy hands." The silence that followed was heavy. Most people would have been crushed by such words, but Sam didn't flinch. He didn't look angry or ashamed. He simply looked at the billionaire with eyes that seemed to see right through the expensive suit. "Sir," Sam said, his voice steady and low, "you are right. Money can buy a magnificent car, but it cannot buy a road. And right now, whether you like it or not, you are stuck on my road." He set the glass of water down on a flat stone and walked back to his stall, leaving the wealthiest man in the city standing alone in the heat and the dust. The sky quickly turned dark as bruised purple clouds rolled in. A sudden, violent thunderstorm erupted, and the rain began to pour in heavy, relentless sheets. Mr. Anderson lunged for his car, but the electronic locks remained dead. He frantically checked his phone, his last connection to his empire, but the screen flickered once and turned black. The battery was dead. Standing there in the downpour, his expensive suit clung to him like cold, wet skin. He was no longer the king of the city. He was just a man, shivering and helpless in the middle of a storm that didn't care about his bank balance. He looked at his luxury car, now just a useless piece of metal in the mud. Through the blur of the rain, he saw a flickering light. Sam was standing in the doorway of his small hut. Without a word of bitterness or a hint of anger, the boy waved his hand, inviting the man who had just insulted him to take shelter from the cold. Mr. Anderson walked toward the shack, his pride sinking with every step. As he stepped inside, the contrast was staggering. This hut was smaller than the millionaire's guest bathroom. The walls were thin and the floor was made of packed earth. Yet as the heat from a small stove filled the air, the hut felt warmer than his 30-room mansion. Sam handed him a dry, coarse blanket and placed a steaming bowl of dal and rice in front of him. Mr. Anderson looked at the simple meal. He had dined at the world's most expensive restaurants, but as he took a bite, he realized that this simple bowl of lentils was more delicious than any gourmet feast he had ever tasted. In the silence of the hut, as the rain hammered on the tin roof, the powerful millionaire began to realize that his money couldn't buy him the one thing he needed most, a sense of belonging and a warm place to stay. The fire crackled softly as the storm continued to howl outside. Mr. Anderson sat on a low wooden bench, the warmth of the blanket and the simple meals slowly returning life to his frozen limbs. He looked at Sam, who was quietly tidying up his small stove, seemingly at peace despite the chaos outside. The millionaire's voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. "I don't understand," he whispered. "I was cruel to you. I mocked your life and called you a beggar. Why are you sitting here, sharing your only meal and your shelter with me? Why help a man who treated you with such contempt?" Sam didn't look up immediately. He carefully placed a wooden spoon aside and looked into the small flickering flame. "My father was a simple man," Sam said quietly, "but he taught me something that changed how I see the world. He told me that being richer than someone doesn't mean you are better than them. He used to say, a gold cup and a clay cup both serve the same purpose, to quench thirst." The words struck Mr. Anderson with the force of a physical blow. A deep, heavy shame settled in his chest, making it hard to breathe. He looked down at his diamond-encrusted watch. It was waterproof, but it couldn't tell him when the rain would stop. He looked at his dead phone, a masterpiece of technology that was now just a cold, useless piece of glass. In that moment, he realized the ultimate truth. For all his millions, he was powerless. His money couldn't buy the warmth of this fire, the nourishment of this simple meal, or the grace of the boy sitting across from him. He had spent his entire life building a fortune, but he had forgotten how to be a human being. In this tiny hut, he wasn't a powerful CEO. He was just a man who had been saved by the very person he had thought was worthless. The storm had passed by the time the sun began to rise over the hills. A recovery team had arrived at dawn, and within an hour, the luxury car was humming with life once again. Mr. Anderson stood by the open door, his expensive suit now wrinkled and stained, but his expression was different. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick bundle of cash, more money than Sam would see in a decade. "Take this," Mr. Anderson said, holding the money out to the boy. "It's a reward. You saved me last night. You gave me food and shelter when I had nothing. This is the least I can do to pay you back." Sam looked at the stack of bills, then back at the man. He didn't even reach for it. "Sir," Sam said with a small, calm smile, "if I took that money, the meal I gave you would have been a transaction. I didn't help you for your money. I helped you because you were a human in need, and I had the means to help. Kindness doesn't have a price tag." Mr. Anderson froze. For the first time in his life, he felt the weight of his own wealth, not as power, but as a burden. He slowly pulled his hand back and tucked the money away. He didn't say another word. He simply nodded and shook Sam's hand with genuine respect. As the luxury car disappeared into the horizon, leaving nothing but a cloud of dust behind, the man inside was no longer the same person who had arrived. He still owned the buildings and the skyline, but he finally understood that those things were just decorations. He had learned that money can buy the finest things in the world, but it cannot buy the one thing that truly defines a person. Character is the real currency of life. To master English, you must understand the depth of the words that bring a story to life. Let's review the key vocabulary from today's lesson. First, we have arrogant. An arrogant person has an exaggerated sense of their own importance, much like Mr. Anderson at the start of our story. He believed his wealth made him superior to others. Next is resilient. To be resilient is to withstand or recover quickly from difficult conditions. Despite his poverty and the harsh storm, Sam remained strong and resilient. Then we have the word quench. Both the gold cup and the clay cup served the same purpose, to quench thirst. To quench means to satisfy a need, specifically by drinking. Finally, the word humble. Sam was humble. He did not feel the need to brag about his wisdom or his kindness. He remained modest and grounded, even when he had the upper hand. Now let's look at an essential grammar point, the degrees of comparison. In English, we change the form of an adjective to compare different people or things. When talking about money, we use rich, richer, and richest. When talking about intelligence, we use wise, wiser, and wisest. Think back to the core lesson of the story. He is wealthier than me, but I am happier than him. By using the comparative form, wealthier and happier, we show the relationship between the millionaire's bank account and the boy's state of mind. True fluency comes from understanding these nuances. Practice these words today to make your English and your character stronger.